Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Studs and Scrubs Hockey Podcast. This is an impromptu off-season episode that we initially wanted to do when we first began the podcast, but we're new, one season down, trying to learn everything about the podcasting world and best way to go about it. So when we talk fantasy hockey on our podcast, our name originated, Studs and Scrubs, from this idea that you should have stud players and scrub players based on how you add and drop players in fantasy. If you've ever played any fantasy before, any sport, you know that you can add and drop players based on their performance in real life. You get fake points, fantasy points towards your team. So the way that we do points in our league is how we're going to discuss who is good and who is bad for the week based on our point system, which is not the default setting on any apps. We use the Yahoo Sports app to use Yahoo Hockey Fantasy. Their default settings we did not like. We tried them. Our first year was now 13 years ago, so we made a lot of changes. And over the years, we have tweaked it here and there, and we still tweak it sometimes. We try something new because we think it's fun. We play a league of 12 teams. We do not play for money. We have never played for money. We might someday, just because when we first started, we weren't sure what we wanted to do, and it just kind of became a thing. So Nick, my co-host, built a trophy that we will post, and it is a really cool, handmade trophy. He took one of those plastic trophies that you give out at kids tournaments, and he connected it to plexiglass that's actually from the local ice rink, and he made these big towers of pucks going up it, so it's kind of a weird little homemade DIY Stanley Cup that we play for. And so just playing off of pride and playing for fun. So with that being said, I am going to run through our rules and our point systems. So that way, if you want to try to play along this year or follow what we do, we think it's the most fun method. We think that it's a lot different than how most people play. And it just kind of makes it exciting because there's a lot of default settings in fantasy that I feel are a little kind of, I don't know, they don't represent the true sport of hockey very well. I don't know if that just stems because fantasy football is so much more popular that hockey's sort of not maybe as well done, in my opinion. So you can tweak them. If you do ESPN or you do Yahoo or you do these others, your commissioner can change the rules. So consider playing our way. Give it a shot this year. I'm going to run through all these rules. Stucoffee here, if I didn't say. I've got my coffee here. Let's go Red Wings. Hopefully this season's better than last, but we'll see how that goes. All right, let's dive into it. I am holding up the rules on my iPad and recording a video on my phone, so hopefully this looks good. I normally have a little bit better setup if you've ever watched this before, but things are a little hectic right now in just family life, and I have a 1.5-year-old daughter, and I have a rare moment where I am home alone. So last year we recorded about midnight every single night because Nick and I both have children and we work full time and could only record late at night. So I've got a moment here with natural sunlight during the daytime. I'm home alone. Very rare. For all the parents out there know it. I'm going to hold up my iPad in one hand and read through the rules. Follow along. I think you'll really enjoy playing our method. Okay, right off the bat. How do you score in fantasy? There's lots of different ways to score, right? So we play head-to-head total points added up off the point system I'm going to go through. And that means that you play an opponent that week and you go head-to-head on your points and then you win. And then you get a win-loss, record just like normal sports where now if you win, you're 1-0. If you lose, you're 0-1. Some leagues play total points the whole year. We didn't like that method because then it's if you have the best players, you pretty much automatically win unless somebody gets hurt. Where when it's week to week, you could have McDavid if he gets no points the week you're playing somebody and he has a good player who's not that caliber, like a third line or like a Perron or something, and Perron gets a hat trick that week, well, you might win that week. So we still like to do week to week, even though it's points. I think it makes it more exciting because you can have a better roster and still lose. So it adds some curveballs. Because we play points, you don't do categories. The default method is categories. Most people who play fantasy hockey are looking at categories. That is somewhat self-explanatory if you've never played before. You get a category of goals. All of your players in your team, their goals get added up. If you have more goals than I have, you win the category goals. And then they have it for assists, and they have it for other things. Then the goalies have their own. Wins, goals against, save percentage, I think, shutouts. And so it can skew the game a little bit. In our opinion, a goalie could go out there, he could play 2 games and let in 1 goal on 20 shots. In the next game, he could let in 0 goals on 30 shots. And then they have a goalie appearance minimum. So you have another goalie who plays. Let's say you have good goalies. You have Bobrovsky and you have Ottinger. And Bobrovsky goes out, has a great week, lets in 1 goal, 2 games, 1 shutout. And then Ottinger, he plays on Wednesday night, and he lets in 2 goals on 20 shots. His team wins. You get the goalie wins 3, and then you get that really good save percentage, and you get 1 shutout. You can now choose to not play any more goalies the whole week. Because now your stats are so high for your save percentage that it's very unlikely someone will beat you. So you lock it. And to us, that seemed like this weird loophole that no one really talks about, that like it freezes the goalies out. And now all of a sudden it's Wednesday night and you're like, well, I already won the week probably because I have 5 goalie stats almost locked. Why would I play a goalie and then he lets in 5 goals on 12 shots, gets pulled, and he ruins my save percentage? So because of that loophole, the week can kind of be over before it even starts. There's only 10 categories. And if you win 4 or 5 or whatever early in the week, then you just kind of lock it down and then the other person doesn't want to play. And if you play for money, it can be really frustrating. So the points method overall, we believe is better when you do points head to head because there's always a chance you can come back. And there's so many times in our league, the way we do it, that you find it's Sunday at 5 p.m. and there's only 4 or 5 games left for the week, and they matter a lot. And it might be players that it might not be McKinnon and it might not be Matthews, right? It's coming down to like, I'm maybe winning, but I only have 1 guy playing, and it's Brandon Tanev, right? Not going to get very many points probably in fantasy, but you still have him out there, right? He'll still get you something. He might get some points, he might not. Then the other guy only has 1 player left, but who knows? Maybe he's got somebody better. Maybe he doesn't have anyone, so he drops somebody and he picks up a goalie, and now his goalie is the backup for Anaheim, right? It used to be John Gibson, right? He kind of lost the net, and now he's traded to Detroit, and John Gibson could go out there and have a 40 save shutout still. And now you just lost fantasy because somebody picked up John Gibson, and he's probably not a starting goalie that's on every single team in the league because he doesn't play enough games, right? Dostal's in there. So it makes it really exciting. It really does. Now I'm going to stop getting sidetracked, I promise. Have a little sip of the coffee, and we're going to get back on our point system so you can follow along. Pardon me. Okay. First, cash league, no. Maximum number of teams, 14, is our league's rules, but we actually play 12 teams. Keeper, yes. That is self-explanatory. If you've never played fantasy any sport, that means you get to pick 1 person on your team that you get to keep next year. Now, the way we do it is they can only be kept 1 year, period. Doesn't matter if you trade them, doesn't matter if somebody else has them. So that keeps it, because sometimes people would have like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or somebody, that'd be their keeper in football, and then they'd have them their whole career. Literally, people have played fantasy, for a long time, and they would have them their whole entire career, and we didn't think that was very fun. It keeps it fresh. You have McDavid on your team, he's your keeper, you get him next year. The year after that, nobody is allowed to keep him. He goes back into the draft for everyone to have. Our keeper deadline, that's just you have to get it into the commissioner. You have to tell him which person you're going to keep before the season starts. If you forget, you don't get a keeper. Head-to-head points, I already mentioned. Maximum acquisitions for the whole entire year, we turn that off. That means when you add people, you don't have a max for the whole season. You have a weekly max, but not for the whole year. Maximum trades for the entire season, none. We say trade all you want. Trade all you want. In fact, right here, the trade deadline, we have ours right now for February 25th of 2026. I don't know if we will alter that or change it at all. We've talked about moving it. We've talked about the Olympics in 2026 might affect some of this stuff. But we like it early to simulate real life, where you kind of have to make a decision. Are you going to be a team that trades away to try to make a push for the playoffs? Or, the next line, draft picks. We allow you to trade draft picks. So you can, kind of similar to real life, say, this is not my year. I am not going to make it. My team is not very good. Or my team's okay, but my top 3 people are all hurt. And we all know about the loophole that people do where they're hurt for long-term injured reserve in real life. Well, if you have a Mark Stone, a Matthew Tkachuk, or whatever, Kane, right? Evander Kane, then if they're in your fantasy league and you think they might be back by March, and in real life they keep them out until May to do the long-term injured reserve loophole, you know that. If you're a big enough hockey fan, you know that that's going to happen. So you have to debate, do I drop this player? Some leagues, the default settings has a can't cut list. So if you have Nathan MacKinnon in the top 20 people or something, you can't cut them from your team. The idea is that it prevents people from giving up, or if you play for money, they can cheat. And they say, tomorrow at midnight, I'm going to drop all of my best players, and then you pick them up. Now, your team's unstoppable, and you and I will split the money. We don't play like that. We don't play dirty pool, and when you keep the money out of it, it actually does make it more fun, because people don't do crazy stuff. Because you're just playing for fun. So, people might do a trade once in a while that you're like, I don't know about that, but it's because you're kind of just having fun. When money gets involved, people do get a little bit weird. So just, if you want to play for money, just keep that in mind. But there's a point to this. I bring it up because we don't have a can't cut list. The can't cut list means that McKinnon, McDavid, Kucherov, whoever you want to name, right? The top people, they can't be dropped from your team. If you have them, you're stuck with them. If they get hurt, you are still stuck with them. We like not having that because you can do whatever you want. If you drop somebody that you shouldn't have dropped, well, I don't know, you're an idiot. That's on you. So we turn that off. We allow draft trades because sometimes you say, I've got Nathan MacKinnon, but he's hurt and I can't play him. So you know what? I'm going to just trade him away, and I'm going to get your first round pick, and I'm going to have 2 first round picks next year. And I'm going to try. In real life, Nathan MacKinnon would go for like 10 first-round picks, right? So you can play that way in our league because the other person might say, MacKinnon might come back in March. And then I'm going to have him in my fantasy playoffs. And I'm going to have a stacked team and I'm going to win. So we like that better. Waiver time, 1 day. When you drop someone, They're on waivers. Nobody can touch them for 24 hours, which is a setting we have. The waiver time period is 1 day, wherever I said that. So then that means that you have to wait and pick them up. So then the waiver type is a continual rolling list, and the waiver mode is standard. That means if you've never played fantasy, it's not very hard. It's just you got to wait 1 day before you can pick someone up. So if they drop someone very good, like McKinnon, they say, he's hurt for the whole year, I'll drop him. And you go, I don't know, he might come back. Let's say that you, the viewer, you, the listener, you are waiver pick number 12. I am waiver pick number 7. And Nick Strum, my co-host, is waiver pick number 5. McKinnon goes into the waiver pool for 24 hours. After 24 hours, anybody can pick him up. But we see his name and we say, oh my goodness, you put in a claim that you want him on your team. I put in the claim. Nick puts in the claim. Then, when the 24 hours expires, he will automatically go to Nick's team because Nick has the highest number of the 3 teams that tried to claim him. Obviously, if it was McKinnon, all 12 teams would ask for him. So then whoever has the highest waiver pick that put in the claim, which means if you're not paying attention and you're pick number 1, sorry, you missed him. So because Nick would get Nathan McKinnon in this scenario, Nick would now have a new waiver position of 12. And you, the viewer, you would go up from 12 to 11. I would go from 7 to 6. We'd all bump up. That's what the continual rolling list means. Allowed injured players from waivers or from free agents to be added directly into your injury slot? Yes. This is a key setting. Make a footnote for myself. 17 minutes in. This is an important setting, I think, that everyone should do. I think all leagues should do this. That is when... Who's hurt in real life? Matthew Tkachuk. He's hurt. I think he's hurt all the way till the Olympics in real life. So he's so good that somebody might draft him, right? Because you're not going to take him as your number 1 pick if he can't play for most of the year. But you might take him, whatever, I don't know where he would go. Round 5, round 10, something like that. Like, because he's good enough where it's going to be a big bump later, right? But what you can do in this mode is anytime in the year, if somebody's hurt, they're often day to day. We changed this rule when COVID season happened. When COVID happened, people would go on to the injured list and they weren't actually injured, right? They had to sit out for, I don't remember, 72 hours to go through their COVID protocol. So there was people that would get dropped that weren't incredible players. They were not first line Art Ross type of people, right? Nobody's dropping Pasternak for 2 days. But you could get some sneaky people like a Paul in Tampa, right? Tampa Bay Lightning, Paul. You could get someone like that they're hurt, but they're not really hurt. So you can add him from the free agents directly into your injured reserve slot, and then he doesn't take up any space on your roster. Yahoo's default settings is that you have to drop a player, add Paul, then put Paul on injured reserve, and then they go, oh, hey, you're 1 roster man short. Then add the player you dropped. No, wait, you can't, because he's on waivers. So now add a different person. Now you've used 2 ads, and you've dropped one of your healthy people to add a hurt person. No one would ever do that. It doesn't make any sense unless you did it by accident. So when you can add them directly into the IR spot, all you have to worry about is you have a total of ads allowed per week. So is it worth using 1 ad to pick up a hurt person? Usually if they're good enough. If they're good enough, you just see Yahoo's good about updates. They say, they're out for 2 weeks. And you just go, okay, is Paul good enough to have on my bench for 2 weeks? Depends on your league. If you only have 6 teams in your league, Paul's probably not going to crack the roster. Your team is so stacked. But if you play with 14 teams or 16 teams, whatever the big leagues are, you got to get in the weeds a little bit of like not only who is a good third, fourth liner in real life, but who is currently hot. That's the trick. Like Jake DeBrusk is a good player, but he's not making your roster if you're totally stacked. If you've got 10 teams or 12 teams, he might be on your roster. If you've got 14 teams, Jake DeBrusk might not be available. Joel Armia is going to be available. But you got to get him on a week when I think something weird. Last season, he scored like, half of his goals in 1 week with Montreal. Their fourth line was on fire for 1 week. I only remember we did an episode and Eli pointed that out. The fourth line of Montreal went crazy in March or something. And that's who you got to look for. And this setting allows for way more creativity. Whatever type of fantasy you play in, I don't care if it's baseball or football or if it's hockey on ESPN, look for this setting and change it. Adding injured people directly onto your IR open spot is a game changer. I'll keep going. Can't cut list. We turn that off. You can drop whoever you want. Trade review. We do league voting. So what this means is when you do a trade, you say Nathan MacKinnon for McDavid, straight up, 1-to-1. Now the league gets to vote if that's fair, right? So if you have Joel Armia, no offense, and I have Nathan MacKinnon, and we trade 1-for-1 straight up, then people are going to say, well, that's not fair. No offense, Joel Armia, but Nathan MacKinnon's going to get 120 points. This doesn't make any sense. And you can have it so your commissioner just is like a president. He just vetoes, or she. Sorry. Your commissioner can just veto the trade. We do league voting, which I learned today. I probably should have known this. We do 5 votes. 5 votes vetoes it. So that is when literally everyone gets a notification on the app and they are allowed to vote and they can abstain, or they can say reject the trade or accept the trade. And so once 5 people say reject, it gets denied. And it's called votes required to veto 5. So it's not like if 5 people green light it, you're in. It's waiting that it has to get to 5 vetoes. And that just protects people from, cheating basically. We don't in our league, but sometimes there's somebody new and maybe the trade is fair, but it's a little skewed, or maybe I don't like to vote against trades because in my mind it's unless somebody's tricking you, right? My wife's in the league. Okay. If she and I work together and she trades me all of her good people for all my bad people, so my team is unfairly stacked, that's not fun. That's garbage. They veto that. But what can happen sometimes is like I have a lot of forwards, maybe, so I need more D. So I will trade a okay forward for like 2 good defensemen, and the other person, I'm fleecing them a little bit, right? That happens in real life, but sometimes people will veto that because they'll say, well, Stu's team's going to be too good. He's going to win. I don't like that. I'll leave it there. I don't like that. I think you should vote against a trade if you think the trade is not fair. But, like, really not fair. Nathan MacKinnon, Joel Armia. If the trade is a Jake Gensel for a, I don't know who would be a good example. How many points did he get? Like a Braden Point probably gets too many goals, But, that type of a thing where they're a little more even, 230 goal scorers type of a thing, I kind of go, well, you're crazy. I wouldn't do that trade. But it's not unfair. It's just your opinion. So do whatever you want. Trade reject time, 1 day. Sorry. I didn't know what that meant for a second. That means that you only get 24 hours to vote on the veto. Post-draft players. Follow waiver rules. Can't remember what that is. Maximum acquisitions per week, 5. We only allow 5 ads per week. Minimum goalie appearances per team per week. We do no minimum. That means you can play one goalie, you can play no goalies. Because it's based on points, I'll go through in a minute, you get points for a save. You get points for a win. So, there's no advantage to playing a goalie and he gets a 15 save shutout, and then you go, nice, I'm going to win all the goalie categories, let's shut down the goalies. It always benefits you. 99% of the time, it benefits you to play all of your people in our league. And that's how we like it. Use your ads, get your people, add your people. That's the whole point of studs and scrubs, because you need to use all 5 ads. You need to drop your bottom people and pick up other bottom people. You are not going to have the chance to get Kirill Kaprizov. He's not going to be available. But you are going to be able to get those third liners and know who's hot right now. You need to drop the guy who he scored 2 goals last week, but he hasn't scored in 5 games. You need to drop him. And you need to go get another one. And there are people that used to be the top of the league that aren't anymore. It's okay to drop those players. I'm talking Malkin, right? I'm talking Claude Giroux. These players used to be Corey Perry. Are you kidding me? Corey Perry, when we started fantasy, was a stud. Those players in real life are studs. But when you're playing head-to-head, week-to-week, sometimes they're studs, sometimes they're scrubs. And it doesn't matter about the name on the back. If you are Evgeny Malkin and you get no goals, but Will Smith in San Jose got 3 goals, then Will Smith's better in fantasy. You just have to go get whoever's currently hot. That's why we play that way. That's what makes it fun. That's why there's studs and scrubs every single week. Moving on, I promise. Invite into the league, commissioner only. That kind of irrelevant. So roster positions, this is a big one. We play 2 centers, 4 wingers. No left wing, right wing. 4 wingers, 4 defensemen, 2 goalies. Real quick. The default settings are left wingers and right wingers. So that you can still play that way with points, but it's just a different way to play. If you have Pasternak, he becomes kind of sacred because he's a right winger. That is, probably the best. I think Kucherov is also a right winger. And so you really have to know their positions. And for us, we thought, well, what does it matter if they're on the left side or the right side? Because in real life, people would move, and fantasy wouldn't do it. They would kind of just lock. No, this guy plays DeBrincat. He plays right wing. And it would just freeze. And then if it was they moved him to the left wing because of Lucas Raymond. Sorry if you're not a Red Wings fan. Then it wouldn't ever update. And you'd just be looking at these bottom feeders that were available because there's really good left wingers available, but you don't need a left winger, you need a right winger. And we said, oh, forget that. So we changed it. Centers, 2 centers, 4 wingers, 4D, 2 goalies. That's your active roster every single night. That's your roster. Then you have bench players. We did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bench players. I believe we added a bench spot when the COVID season happened because it was really hard to keep up with games getting canceled and players getting moved to the COVID list like last second. So we had an extra bench spot, maybe even 2. It might have been 4. We went to 6. I can't remember because we've played for 13 years, but whatever we did, we like more bench spots because, why not? Take that for what it is. 6 might be a little thick, but here's something we did change that I like. We have 2 IR plus spots. That stands for injured reserve or other. And so when you have the default settings, I think you have 1 IR slot, and then you have 1 IR plus, I think. IR just by itself, injured reserve by itself, means they must be on the injured reserve, the LTIR injured reserve list in real life. So that is when you have Matthew Tkachuk on your team and you leave him there for the whole season, and then you bring him back in February or March after the Olympics happen. That is the only thing you can use that slot for. And then the IR plus is for everything else. So that is literally game time decision. They are sick with the flu, or they got hurt and they'll be week to week, or they are DTD, right, day to day. And there's also out. Out is a Yahoo setting that I don't think pertains to a real actual status in real life hockey, but it just means that like they're out for that game and they might not be declared openly to the public as like an injury day to day, week to week, LTIR. That can happen from sickness, that can happen for personal reasons, that can happen for players going into the player assistant program that they choose to step away from the game for a little bit. Not like a Jonathan Taves, right? This is more like a Robin Lehner where they're just gone for a little bit, they're dealing with something, right? Then you can have your Shane Pinto where they're suspended and they actually get the suspended status, I think, in Yahoo when they're suspended. And all of that does not matter. If you have IR plus, you just put them there because you still want them on your fantasy team, but you're not allowed to play them right now. You pop them on IR plus. Then you go studs and scrubs. You look for your stud for this week. Episodes come out on Monday. Boom. You add that guy. He's just a stopgap. You just have him for this week. Maybe it's Wednesday. Whoop. Next Tuesday, your guy comes back. He just had a sprained wrist. He's fine. He just didn't go on the road trip. He's back. You drop that guy that you picked up because chances are he was hot that week and he's gone cold. That's a scrub. Drop him. Your stud is on injured reserve plus. Pop him back up into your roster. You're good to go. That's a huge one. For me, that's IR plus is the biggest difference we added that I think makes the game more fun. IR plus, both spots IR plus. That's key. Send unjoined. That's a stat to send emails to players. Okay, so here's the points. Mark it in case I'm too long-winded. 33-minute mark. 33. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We're going to talk now about how we do points. First, forwards and defensemen stat categories by points. Value for each. Right now, subject to change, we are having a little vote, I think. We might change some of this. But right now, this is how we're playing. Goals, 3 points. Assists, 2 points. Plus, minus, plus 1. Penalty minutes, minus 1/4 of a point, 0.25. The default settings is that penalties help you, and that's just a different way to play. We've debated doing it that way. If you need an ad for the week and penalties help you in your league, you're going to want someone like an Evander Kane. You're going to want someone, Matthew Tkachuk won't be available, right? The Tkachuk brothers get a lot of penalties, but more like a Racco Gudis, where like they might take a fighting major, they might take a, penalty, and it makes people that are like Brady Tkachuk and Tom Wilson, they become more valuable because penalty minutes help you. we thought that was a little bit silly because penalty minutes hurt you in real life. So we do -1/4 because that means it's per minute. So a 2-minute minor is -1. And that's just a different strategy to play. You can play around with that one because it's kind of fun. But it makes people like I don't know who won Lady Being, to be honest. But like Mitch Marner, right, or somebody like that, they don't take a lot of penalties, so they are gonna get a boost that they're more valuable than somebody like a Matthew Tkachuk who gets a lot of points, but he also takes penalties. So you get a little bit rewarded with like people that play that kind of Pavel Datsyuk type, right? Red Wings fan. You just help your team in real life by staying out of the box. So we thought that should be kind of a benefit where a person like a Evander Kane, they're going to have pros and cons in real life. So let's make it pros and cons in fantasy. That's why we did that. Power play points +1. We might change that because the concept is you have an extra guy, you should get a point. So why are you getting extra points in fantasy? It's harder to score 5-on-5. And you're getting more points for scoring when you should. It also adds extra value to the people who are already the best. So if you're Ovechkin and you're getting tons of goals, but you're getting tons of power play goals, like it's just canceling out because you have Ovechkin. The other guy over here has Draisaitl. He's getting a ton of goals. He's getting a ton of power play goals. So like you're just canceling each other out. So we might change that one. But for now, power play points are 1. Shorthanded points are +2. That one is literally just because it is harder to do in real life, and it's kind of fun. There's no way to predict it. Well, you can try. You can say, Brad Marchand has the most shorthanded goals. I'm picking him on purpose because of that. I mean, don't overreact. It's not something you can track super well, but it is a strategy. It is a strategy. So it's one of those nice bonuses where it's Sunday night and you think you're going to lose, and then you win because Brad Marchand got you a shorthanded point, and you also had, I was going to say McAvoy. Whoops. And you also have Bennett who got the assist. And so boom, you just got 2 shorthanded. So that was 4 extra points off that. Plus a goal is 3, plus an assist is 2. Boom, boom, boom. What is that, 9 points? You just won fantasy. Off of some game that you're watching, the Panthers played Seattle Kraken at 1 a.m. Eastern on a February that nobody cares about, and no offense, but whatever. Let's say the Panthers won 5-2. Who cares? Who's watching this game? Nobody's watching this game. You are, because you just won fantasy off of that 1 goal. Okay. Shots on goal, 0.5 plus, 0.5 plus. Block shots, 0.5 plus. I'm going to plug, since I'm making the recording and I'm home alone for once, we might add hits. I think they call them banger leagues when hits count for points. We don't have that because it wasn't like a default thing. And we're probably going to add it this year because it just kind of offsets, right? So you got a Tom Wilson. He scores 30 goals, but he takes a bunch of penalties, but he hits a lot. So it's like, where does he fall? Well, the way we have it right now is the goals add points and the penalty minutes take away. So he's devalued. He's not really as good as he probably is in real life. So now if the hits also add points, well, now you got a debate on your hands. Is it better to have somebody who's a bull or somebody who gets more points? And what it does for us, the reason we want to add it is we want to try to get more value to defensive defensemen. There's not a very good reason to have a player like Gudis or Tanev on your fantasy the way we currently play because they don't get points. And then, they probably aren't going to get a shorthanded point either, even though they're out there. And they're not going to play the power play. So, they don't add that much in fantasy, but they add a lot in real life. So we wanted to simulate that. So if we add maybe a little higher on block shots, it's 0.5, maybe 0.75, and then maybe hits 0.5. Now those players, they just become a little more valuable, and when you need to add your stud for the week, you might be looking at hits and blocks and penalty killers more than just who's out there who maybe is going to score me a goal, and you're just flipping a coin. There's more strategy involved by getting these defensive players up, and the lucky side effect is that a player like Nathan MacKinnon shoots up the ladder as they're probably the number one player in fantasy because they have more hits, they have more shots, and they have more goals than somebody who leads the league in assists, right? If somebody is like, I don't know, maybe I don't have a good example that are currently playing. I'm drawing a blank right now, but Carlson kind of did it a few years ago when his last year with the Sharks, right? Erik Karlsson got 100-something points, and he had like 75 assists, I want to say. That player is incredible because they're on the D slot for fantasy, but if they were a winger, they're not as valuable as MacKinnon because they don't get as many hits, right? So you're talking a 2015 Ovechkin unstoppable versus somebody who doesn't throw their body around as much, like is gonna just get Mitch Marner. They're gonna be less valuable with more assists and less hits. So it introduces unintended consequences, and we actually love that. And not that they're unintended, but like the point of adding the blocks and the hits was to help defensive people like Noah Dobson be more valuable in fantasy. And the unintended consequences is that Mitch Marner loses stock and Nathan MacKinnon gains stock. So it's just fun. It really is. Goalie stats. Currently, right now, wins 2 points. That used to be higher. We changed the goalies because I had a big toddler hissy fit about the way we did points. I used to be a goalie. I was not very good. Played high school level stuff. And it would drive me nuts that in categories with wins, the best goalie in the league for fantasy was Corey Crawford. I grew up in Illinois as a Red Wings fan, so I was biased, and somebody like Corey Crawford drove me crazy because they were pretty good goalie, if you're too young to remember. But he wasn't incredible. But they won lots of Stanley Cups, and the Blackhawks were an absolute wagon, and Corey Crawford was a decent goalie. Okay, he's not the number one goalie in the league. At the time, it's Carey Price. It's Lundqvist. It's whoever else, even Quick and Luongo and Fleury and Lundqvist, Rask, underrated Rask. It's like there was these other goalies that were way better. In today's game, it's Shesterkin and Bobrovsky and, maybe Ottinger and some of these people that are obviously Hellebuck in the regular season that are just absolute wagons. But I didn't like the way the points were set up, that it was more dependent on the team winning than the goalie stopping the puck. It's the only thing they do. I don't care if you are Dominic Hasek or Patrick Waugh or Corey Crawford, but stop the puck. That's your only job. If you stop it more than the other guy stops it, we are going to win the game. That's it. That's hockey. Kind of a little bit comes down to that. If you stop all of the pucks, we're gonna win eventually. So we changed them, and we made it more about your save percentage and less about your team wins. Goalie stats, starting over. Wins, 2 points. A loss, -1 point. A goal against, -1. A save, plus 0.33. So for every 3 saves, you get 1 point, which we're going to revisit probably. So that means that when you make 10 saves, you're going to get 3 points, right? And then you let in 1 goal. Now you're down to 2 points. So that's like an assist. So that's a 90 save percentage. If you have your whole season as a 90 save percentage, then you're going to get, what did I say? 3 minus 1 goal, so 2. So then there's 20 shots, now you got 4, 30 shots, now you got 6, and then your team wins, you get 8, but your team loses, you got 5. That's how it kind of works. So a shutout used to be 5 points by default. We made it 3. So the problem is with the method I kind of take blame / credit for creating is when I compared it to a bunch of, I nerded out a little bit and compared it to like averages. A good goalie will get you like 5 points to 8 points. And a good player, McDavid or whoever, they're going to get you 5 points pretty often because that, a goal and an assist is 5. But they also are going to get a power play point. They're going to get shots on goal. They're going to get block shots. So like they have more opportunities to make it up. So the goalies were a little jacked up. We tweaked it. It seemed like it was good. But the problem we've run into, I think we need to revise, is that the goalies will almost always get a net positive, where a player will sometimes get 0 or sometimes get like 1 fantasy point. Any goalie, even a backup or a third string goalie that you have never heard of, if you are a Red Wings fan, that's our guy Kosa, right? Kosa is a prospect in the Red Wings that plays in the minors, and he's very, very, very good. He's supposed to be the future of goaltending. We'll see. He only played a couple of games in the NHL last year, but you don't care. If you're doing fantasy, you drop your worst player, you see a goalie that's available, you pick him up. Who's Kosa? I've never heard of him. You throw him in there. In real life, he had 30 saves and a win. Okay, well, that is like whatever I said, 6 points plus 2 for the win. That's 8 points. If you score 2 goals, you only get 6 points. So he got 8 points. Ovechkin gets a hat trick. Ovechkin got 9. So you're telling me playing 1 game in the NHL, letting in 2 goals on 35 shots and getting a W, is that harder than a hat trick? No. So I think the way to do it, my opinion, I can cut this from the episode because we haven't done it yet, is I think a goal against I want to be minus more. So it just introduces a little chaos. It gives you a little risk. When you see a goalie's going to start, you don't know who they are. Right now in our league, probably worth adding. They're going to get you 3 points or 5 points, almost guaranteed. It's hard to get negative points as a goalie. You have to let in like 4 goals on 10 shots and then you get pulled. Now you can't make any more saves, so you can't get it back up. Where sometimes a goalie like Vasilevsky, he'll have a bad night where he'll let in 3 goals on 5 shots and then he'll stay in the whole game. So then he'll make 20 saves. So then at the end of the game, it's like he let in 3 goals on 25 shots. It's not very good, but it's not that bad. And he'll get you 4 fantasy points. And you kind of look at it and go, 4 fantasy points? He didn't play well. And it can get skewed where they let in 2 goals on 18 shots and their team lost. And you go, yeah, but he played okay. No, he didn't play okay. He let in 2 goals on 18 shots and his team lost, whatever, 2-1. It's your fault. If you're an NHL level goalie, that's your fault. You have to stop the puck. You let in 2 on 12 shots or 2 on 15 shots and your team loses 2-1. As a goalie, you can say, well, they only scored 1 goal. No. You're an NHL starting goalie. You let in 2 goals on 15 shots. It's your fault that you lost. That's it. And so I want to change the goaltending stats to have a goal against be a big minus. So even if you let in 5 goals, but you say, yeah, there was 30 shots or whatever, that's not a good save percentage. So you can get 10 points with all those saves, and then you go, okay, let's do every goal against is minus 1/2 times 5. Picked a bad number. I'm not very good with math. 1, 2, 3, and it just lowers their points by so much that it makes you second guess. Do I really want to add this goalie? Maybe I don't. Maybe it's not worth the risk. If he lets in 5 goals on 8 shots and gets pulled, that's like negative 5 points. I just lost fantasy. So Wins are 2, loss is -1, goal against is -1, saves is 0.33 plus, and a shutout is +3. That's all of our stats. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to run through, without interjecting, our stats in case I need to edit this. Sorry, I'm filming it myself. Bear with me. Forwards, goals, +3. Assist, +2. Plus minus, +1. Penalty minutes, -1/4. Power play points, +1. Short-handed points, +2. Shots on goal, +1/2. Blocks, +1/2. Goaltender stats. A team win, +2. Loss, -1. Goals against, -1. A save, 0.33 plus. Every 3 saves is 1 point. Shutouts, +3. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Please like, follow, subscribe, and more importantly, give this a shot. This is a more fun way to play fantasy. I promise you that using this method, you're going to be more in tune to our podcast, and when we say studs and scrubs, drop this guy, add this guy, it's going to make more sense. And just try it. It's a way more fun way to keep track of your fantasy, and whether you play for money or you don't, it just is more interesting, a little more complex, and it makes the game way more entertaining. Let's go Red Wings. Keep your stick on the ice.